So I got a request asking me to film a video discussing Joseph Parker sparring with Wladamir Klitschko. I've seen various reports on this online. I'm going to possibly read out a few quotes, and the source that I'm using is stuff.co.nz, so a New Zealand website. They quote Wladamir Klitschko, who apparently discussed with Dan Raphael from ESPN, who said, with regards to Joseph Parker, he's extremely talented. I see myself in Joseph in a certain way. I can't say anything negative. I don't know how the guy will develop, but he has potential. Which is certainly good praise indeed. Dan Raphael went on to say that Joseph Parker is becoming one of the most talked about, hottest prospects in world boxing, world heavyweight boxing, second only to Anthony Joshua. And from what I'm reading, Wladamir Klitschko and Joseph Parker sparred over 12 rounds together. Now, I'm not saying that was 12 rounds back to back. It may have been, 4 sessions of 3 rounds, something like that. But it sounds like they've got some decent work in together. And Wladamir, as I say, is full of praise. Very thankful to Joseph Parker for coming and helping him to prepare for the Bryant Jennings fight. I think this is really good news for Joseph Parker, really good experience to have under his belt. I know he's been invited out to the Klitschko training camp a few times, and I think for whatever reason hasn't been able to make it. But I reckon it would be a good experience for him. I remember when Anthony Joshua went out there. I think he went out at the same time as Dillian White, Malik Scott, Kevin Kingpin Johnson, and I don't know who else has been out there with Joseph Parker. I read that the American heavyweight prospect Jarrell Big Baby Miller was out there. But what I'm getting at is these camps are a really good experience. Obviously you get to spar with Klitschko, but you get the experience of seeing all different styles, different types of heavyweights at different stages of their careers, and it sounds good. It's a really good learning curve. Now, with regard to Klitschko's praise of Joseph Parker, obviously it's good that the champ is saying really, really good stuff. I mean, Klitschko will have sparred with everyone, he's fought everyone, and he's in a better position than most to make a judgment on a heavyweight fighter's potential. In the interest of balance, what I will say is, Joseph Parker has in essence done Klitschko a favour. He's flown out, he's taken himself away from his family, his friends, and he's stayed at a Klitschko sparring camp. They've probably spent time together, they've probably got some sort of a relationship. It would perhaps be uncharacteristic if Klitschko came out and said, a fighter I invited over was pretty poor, knocked him out in sparring, don't see him going too far. So what I'm getting at is I take Klitschko's commentary perhaps with a slight pinch of salt, in the sense that I doubt he'd be negative, or I doubt it'd be anything but positive, so we say. But nevertheless, it's certainly good with these sort of glowing reports that have come out of it. I mean, from Joseph Parker's perspective, the sparring experience is vital. A lot of the fighters he's been in with, I know he's fought Nascimento, but obviously there are very few fighters in the sport who have a frame like Wladamir Klitschko, so big, so rangy. He won't have fought anyone with the power of Wladamir Klitschko, with the jab and athleticism of Wladamir Klitschko. So it will have been a steep learning curve for Parker, but perhaps when he comes in and faces, a jabber, someone with a jab, someone with power, he's kind of prepared, even though he maybe hasn't fought anyone in the pro ranks. This sort of experience will be absolutely vital for him going forward. I mean, if you talk about the kind of fighters who often get bought in for prospects, if we talk about like a Tony Thompson, a Malik Scott, these are guys who, Tony Thompson specifically is a tall, big-framed man. Malik Scott is a guy who can jab, who's relatively athletic in terms of his movement, so we say. And I'm not saying either of those guys resemble Klitschko, but the fact that Parker's got this high-level experience against the guy of this nature, really is very, very positive. I keep referring to this in my videos, but David Price getting KO'd by Tony Thompson. Perhaps if David Price had the opportunity to spar 12 rounds with Klitschko, he'd have been more familiar with fighting guys his own size. He'd have been more familiar with guys who can really hurt when they hit you. And perhaps he may have been more sort of defensively minded and responsible in that particular fight. All in all, really, really good work for Joseph Parker indeed. I'm pleased to see that his name is staying out there, his public profile is getting high, and he's a guy who's being talked about more and more and more, which is positive stuff indeed. Let me know your thoughts. Keen to discuss as always. Thanks for watching.